Before this video starts, if you enjoyed this video, there are many more like it already on the channel with many more like it to come in the future, so subscribe. I am trying to hit 125,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so I would really appreciate it. I upload daily on this channel, so if you're looking for some consistent basketball talk, this is a place for it. Also, drop a like on this video. It only takes 1 second and makes a massive difference. So at the time of recording this, it's a day ahead of the NBA Finals. I plan on doing an NBA Finals review after every game, so you're going to be getting 2 videos today. As of right now, the debate is going on right now, and I decided I would shoot this video a day early because if I don't, I might genuinely end my life. So let's talk about the Boston Celtics. So the Celtics obviously lost in Game 6 versus the Miami Heat the other day, and they were eliminated from the NBA playoffs. And I saw a lot of interesting reactions to this. My initial thought was, Jayson Tatum is, what, 22 years old? Jaylen Brown's like 23, something like that. They're both very young, and they're going to be fine. My reaction was the Celtics should really take this loss positively. It's the same thing with the Denver Nuggets, and I do have a video planned for the Denver Nuggets later on. My first thought was, the Celtics got this far with Jayson Tatum being a superstar, borderline superstar level player at the age of 22. I should actually look up his age because I don't know exactly how old he is. Yes, Tatum is 22 years old, although some would say he is still 19, but the guy is a ridiculously good talent, and he is only 22 years old. There is zero reason to panic. So, what did Celtics fans do? Well, they panicked like crazy, and I don't mean to call out a fellow YouTuber friend of mine, and I'm not trying to call him out whatsoever, but I did see a little bit of this from B-Souls in his video reacting to the Celtics losing. The main thing that I strongly disagreed with him on was that Brad Stevens, that they should consider firing him, and I just thought that was, no, don't do that. Don't even consider it, because there is one coach, maybe 2, that I would consider better than Brad Stevens. One that is definitely better, that being Eric Spoelstra, because I think he's by far and away the best coach in the league. Then there's Nick Nurse, who you could say is better. I would argue there were parts of that series versus the Raptors where Brad Stevens outcoached Nick Nurse, so I wouldn't even make that strong of a case that Nick Nurse is a way better coach than Brad Stevens. And I'm leaving Greg Popovich out because his views on basketball have become pretty outdated, so that's why he's not there for me. Either way, I don't think the solution is firing Brad Stevens. I also don't really think the solution is trading Gordon Hayward. Now, of course, there is some rumors with the Pacers, and if a trade is available that's a good trade, you make said trade. If you can get Victor Oladipo as well as Miles Turner for Gordon Hayward, another contract, Romeo Langford, and 2 or 3 first-round picks, yeah, you're gonna take that deal. But Gordon Hayward, I understand that he's been injured all the time, and yeah, it's not his fault, but also it's a problem. And yeah, it is a problem, but all of his injuries have been kind of freak injuries, pretty much across the board. It's weird. It's he's not an injury-prone player, even though he gets injured all the time. He's an unlucky-ass dude, essentially. I know it's a weird way to frame it because if you get injured all the time, you're considered injury-prone. But my point is, Hayward doesn't have something that's nagging that's just going to keep happening. He just needs to not have these random injuries at random parts of his body to happen. And he just needs to be healthy. And I think Gordon Hayward, other than him looking slow in this Miami series, was really good for the Boston Celtics this year. So I don't think that's the end of the world. And I think the Celtics overall looked better when he was on the court than without, especially when they were running small, even if Hayward statistically was not amazing and he had some bad moments. But don't think you should trade Gordon Hayward. I've seen some people suggest trading Kemba Walker. And the thing is, Kemba Walker got put in a weird situation because he was used to being the guy to shoot the ball the most, and then Jayson Tatum just becomes this next-level player. And the problem with Kemba Walker is he's really not an amazing playmaker, and outside of scoring and playmaking and just spacing the floor, Kemba Walker does not have a whole lot of value. He's not a good defensive player as much as he tries, not a good rebounder or anything like that, not the greatest leader in the world. He's not a bad one, but I don't just think Kemba Walker, that's a textbook leader right there. And as a result, when he's reduced to a second option, how much he can actually contribute is reduced. So, of course, yeah, Kemba is not a cardiac Kemba. he's also kind of cardio Kemba at times, because when he's not on the court, or when he's not scoring, he's not doing much, is my point. And Kemba kind of got screwed by that. Oh yeah, I completely forgot to acknowledge this. I broke my thumbnail rule. I like to have a colored thumbnail for the 2K talks, and I went with the white background because I couldn't get the thumbnail to look good without the red text box, and then the red with the Celtics green in the back just looked ugly, or like it was a Christmas thumbnail. So that's why this thumbnail is not normal. But yeah, anyways, as I was saying, Celtics should be fine. Genuinely, like, they're still going to be a team that can compete for championships. I think Jayson Tatum is really just now realizing his potential. Same goes for Jaylen Brown. Like, when you consider the expectations for the Celtics this year, they were expected to be pretty damn good, but they were a lot better, I would say, in the playoffs than they were initially expected to be. I'd say that Toronto Raptors series, if not for Pascal Siakam just sucking butt, which part of that was because the Celtics played good defense, but at the end of the day, you got to be a star player, and Pascal Siakam was not a star player in that series. If that didn't happen, they're a second-round exit. And that was a very real possibility. Instead, they lose to the Miami Heat, who are a better team than the Toronto Raptors. So, I mean, what's the problem here? Genuinely, like, have some patience. I understand that you don't want to be complacent. You don't want to just be like, they're 22, 23, they'll be fine. But you also don't need to hit the panic button because they're 22, 23. You don't fire Brad Stevens because you lost to a team that's very good. If I could talk about the Miami Heat series for the Celtics quite a bit, it is one of the biggest issues that exists with the Celtics that you can blame on Brad Stevens, at least in part, is that the Celtics blow leads a lot. Like, every time the Celtics have like a 15 to even 20 point lead in like the second or third quarter, literally everyone on my timeline on Twitter, I actually follow a lot of Celtics fans, were like, all right, can't wait to see how we blow this one. Can't wait to see how the Celtics blow that lead. And almost across the board, that happens every time. It's comical. And part of this is an issue that exists with Jayson Tatum, and I saw people making comparisons to Paul George for this reason. I don't think that's fair. There are just parts of games where Jayson Tatum kind of just doesn't play like he's really playing. I don't know how to describe it. Like, it's like he falls asleep at the wheel, and he's kind of like being cardio Kemba out there, where he's just running around and he's not actually doing all that much. And especially in a playoff series, you don't want that from your best player. But again, 22 years old, has a whole lot more room to grow. I really do not think Celtics fans should be worried. I don't think you should be suggesting Brad Stevens gets fired. Don't think you should be making any large moves unless the large move makes sense. You don't just make a move for move's sakes, and you just stick to your guns. The Celtics have the 14th pick in this draft. They could draft a pretty good player that would help with their depth. I would say trade back and draft Desmond Bane, but I also stand that man, so do what you will with that. In terms of other moves they could make, if Miles Turner is available, you push to get Miles Turner, because he would really help them, because the interior presence on the Celtics was not amazing. Part of the reason that Bam Adebayo was just dominant in this Celtics series is because Daniel Theis really wasn't a threat to him. And look, Daniel Theis is a nice player, but he's not scaring anybody on both ends of the court. Like, he's just like, he should be a backup center. And he would be a pretty good backup center. But unfortunately, he's forced in this position where he has to be this starting five on a championship caliber team, and he's just really not built for that. It's why you saw the Celtics go small multiple times. It's why you saw them put Robert Williams out there, even though he's clearly not ready. All of those things was because Daniel Theis is just a pretty good backup big man. So Miles Turner, a guy that can both stretch the floor on offense as well as be versatile and a good rim protector on defense, that's the kind of guy you want to land, and he would really fill the biggest hole for the Celtics. But the main problem to me with the Celtics, or at least one of the biggest ones, and this is a problem that existed back when they had Kyrie Irving and Terry Rozier and Marcus Morris, I feel like that gets blamed all the way on Kyrie Irving when it's also on those two, because they weren't that great of players that were getting like 10 shots a game each. But shot distribution. That was one of the biggest red flags that I saw with the Boston Celtics in this series. Shot distribution was abysmal. There were so many possessions where I was like, Why in the fuck is Marcus Smart initiating all of the offense right now? Marcus Smart, don't get me wrong, not a horrible offensive player, but like Jayson Tatum was on the floor, and late in games, Jayson Tatum should have the ball on every possession. He should at least touch the ball on every possession. Maybe you have him doing off-ball stuff, but I don't want Marcus Smart leading offenses. This also applies to Kemba Walker. It would just be better if the ball was in Kemba and Tatum's hand on pretty much every possession and Marcus Smart was being used as a three-point shooter. I'm sorry to Marcus Smart, but if he's averaging 20 points per game in a playoff series, it should be because the Celtics are just dominating the teams, not because they need Marcus Smart to average 20, or not because Marcus Smart is shooting the ball that much. He shouldn't be running offense at that level. So I think the Celtics need to establish a hierarchy, and part of that is on Jayson Tatum for not demanding the ball in some of those situations, but part of it is also on Brad Stevens for just allowing Marcus Smart, or even choosing. If he's choosing to have Marcus Smart, that's a big problem. But just allowing Marcus Smart to be the guy initiating all the offense, that's a problem. And it's something that needs addressing. But if you got a real big man and you figured out that hierarchy, as well as working on some playmaking, Jayson Tatum has gotten a lot better as a playmaker, and I think they should be all right down the line, but it'd be nice if you were better than all right. I don't know what the total solution to that is. They just don't have great playmaking. I also think a better backup point guard than Brad Wanamaker would make a big difference. Don't get me wrong, I don't think Brad's as bad as Celtics fans make him seem, because they act like he's the worst backup point guard in the league, and that's just simply not true. But they could use an actual initiator, someone that can actually create offense, because there's a lot of times where it's the backup point guard and then one of their shot creators that really can't create for anybody else, so it's just like spamming giving the ball to that shot creator. So playmaking, an established hierarchy, and a big man. That's what I would recommend for the Celtics to get better, but Celtics fans, please stop smashing the panic button. It's going to be fine. I can tell you as a Bulls fan, you have no reason to be worried right now. You have a young future superstar on your team, as well as a future all-star in Jaylen Brown. By the way, second best player on the Celtics, Jaylen Brown, better than Kemba. Kemba's still a good player, even if he underperformed. Gordon Hayward's still a good player, even if he underperformed. Brad Stevens is still a great coach. You guys are going to be fine. And I feel weird because I was initially calling Brad Stevens overrated a few years ago, like maybe 2 years ago, and I got called out for Celtics fans for that, and then now they're calling him overrated, so now I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum. So I don't know, but Celtics are going to be fine. Calm down. If you want to support this content outside of just your like and subscription, I do have a Patreon for some extra content. You can support me over there. There's going to be a video out maybe an hour after the finals. So yeah. Like and subscribe for more NBA content like this, and cue the outro music.